have either. You know why? Because this is a state that doesn't have the death penalty.
This is Sean Riker, a convicted felon who was in a Racine, Wisconsin court for a pre-sentencing hearing. Riker has a violent history and has been convicted of disturbing crimes against his own family, including sexual assault, physical abuse of a child, and reckless endangerment. He had previously served 12 years in a federal prison for detonating pipe bombs in Utah. If you thought Riker would show remorse for his crimes, be prepared for his jaw-dropping conduct during the proceedings. During the trial, Riker displayed complete disdain for the proceedings. Riker was shackled and in a spit mask due to his previous escapes from jail and uncooperative behavior. Now in court, Riker wasted no time in launching a vicious tirade against Judge Wayne Merrick, the very person who would soon decide his fate.
Is this your idea, Merrick? Huh? You got me looking like a clown? Stupid punk. Merrick. You! I'm killing all you Wayne. I got your address, Wayne Merrick.
When he was done with the judge, he faced the prosecutor.
You this that punk. What the do you want?
Eventually, he was removed from the court.
Later.
Riker did not appear at his sentencing, but despite his absence, the court sentenced him to 200 years in prison. Riker appealed the sentence, but it was unsuccessful. However, this wasn't the only time a convict freaked out in court. Take, for example, the case of Sidney Newsom, who was before Southern District Judge Aubrey Rimes in Pike County Justice Court in Pike, Mississippi, on a domestic violence charge. While the crimes committed by Newsom are abhorrent, his courtroom conduct will leave you speechless. Here, he seems relatively calm, reviewing paperwork, until a tap on the table from a transport officer seems to trigger him. As his mother and brother enter the courtroom, Newsom briefly steps towards them, but the officer motions him back into line. Judge Rimes signals for family members to take their seats, and Newsom signs the paperwork. However, he's not ready to conclude the proceedings. Newsom, visibly annoyed and upset, argues with the judge, prompting the judge to motion for his removal. First, Newsom hesitates, but soon erupts. He grabs a stack of papers and throws them at the judge, and just like that, chaos ensues. Court clerks rush away, and his mother screams and jumps while the lone transport officer struggles to control him. But Newsom wasn't done. He hurls a telephone at the judge and knocks over a computer monitor. Judge Rimes decides that the drama is enough and it's time to regain control of his court. Despite Newsom's continued fight, Judge Rimes pins him to the desk. Newsom's brother gets involved, and eventually, more officials intervene to escort Newsom out of the room. Once order is restored, Judge Rimes returns to the bench and resumes proceedings. Newsom's brother was not charged with any crime and was removed from the court. Newsom faced an additional charge of contempt of court and served 48 hours in jail. However, Newsom isn't alone in his courtroom actions. Let's not forget the infamous incident involving Antonio Rosales. Rosales is accused of abducting a 10-year-old girl and assaulting her. Rosales has a violent past and is now in a Sanford, Florida court, where closing arguments are in progress. Despite the horrifying nature of Rosales' offenses, his actions during sentencing managed to shock everyone present. As Assistant State Attorney Anna Valentini delivers her closing argument, Rosales, who is sitting with a translator, feels insulted because he was called a child molester. And this is how he showed his vexation. Officers immediately rushed in to restrain him. During this chaos, Judge Deborah Nelson tried to open a door and called for assistance, but the door didn't open. Rosales continued to resist. Eventually, additional officers arrived, subdued him, and escorted him, actually bundled him out of the courtroom. Following the drama, Judge Nelson suspends the trial for the evening. The subsequent day, the jury renders its verdict. Rosales was sentenced to 3 life sentences. However, while it was clear that Rosales wasn't happy to hear that he's a child molester, his reaction to the description was similar to the case of Nicholas Tuinstra, who's in court for the murders of his estranged wife, Melissa Tuinstra, and her boyfriend, Justin Daniels. Melissa found a new chapter in life and a new relationship after her divorce, but was tragically shot by Tuinstra at her apartment complex.
In the criminal complaint, Tuinstra actually hints at a murder-suicide theory, telling investigators, quote, he didn't know what Justin was capable of.
Immediately after the crime, police launched a frantic search for the Tuinstra's 8-year-old daughter, putting out an Amber Alert. Thankfully, she was found unharmed at her grandparents' home with her father, the assailant. The evidence against Tuinstra was compelling. He had purchased the murder weapon, and his presence at the scene was confirmed.
Officers responding to the scene found the female in a pool of blood.
As if Tuinstra's crime was not outrageous enough, his reaction in court was even more dramatic. Tuinstra was found guilty during the trial, and tensions ran high at the subsequent sentencing. Prosecutor Andrew Christensen highlighted Tuinstra's abusive behavior towards Melissa, especially in the presence of their daughter.
While claiming to investigators on Sunday that he had never been to 203 Broadway Street, changed his story on Tuesday, admitted he had been there during the time frame of the homicides.
But Tuinstra didn't like his tone or what he said, so he did this.
And not be in recess. And not touch her hair. You only got pushed that one time and stuck her nails. That was it. That was the only.
Upon his return, Tuinstra offered a brief apology, citing the sensitivity of the subject concerning his daughter. However, the judge remained skeptical of his intentions.
I apologize for the outburst to the prosecution. My daughter is a very sensitive subject.
The court heard emotional impact statements from Melissa's family on how the senseless killing had affected them.
Murdered 2 people because his ego was bruised.
If you, Nick, loved Melissa like you said you did, why did you kill her?
Eventually, Judge Mark Slate sentenced him to 2 life terms without parole, but not without noting his lack of remorse.
No remorse by the defendant. He continues to blame others.
Despite this, Tuinstra was allowed supervised visits with his daughter from prison. He maintained that he was innocent and that undisclosed truths would be revealed during his appeals. However, the appeal was subsequently denied. However, Nicholas Tuinstra wasn't the first person to have an outburst in court. There's the case of Dale Roy Greenman, who's in an Orange County courthouse in Orlando, Florida, for a bond hearing after being charged with theft. Greenman was accused of stealing a pack of cigarettes, a Bic lighter, and a Gatorade from a 7-Eleven. As the hearing began, Judge Carly Wish addressed Greenman directly.
Good afternoon, sir. Can you tell me your name, please?
Hello, Your Honor.
State your name.
Mr. Greenman.
Can you tell me your name?
Greenman.
However, the situation escalated when discussions turned to potential charges. Greenman's bond was set at $250, but he waited for any offer that might reduce his potential jail time. Unfortunately, due to his out-of-state criminal history, no offer was presented.
You were arrested for petty theft. Did you find probable cause? Miss Kenny Swanson, did you have an offer?
I did not, Your Honor.
No offer? Is that due to the out-of-state criminal history?
Yes, Your Honor.
Before this hearing, Greenman had been charged with tampering with evidence in another case, which elevated his current misdemeanor charge to a felony.
Based on your priors, so I can't do anything with your case today. I am going to appoint the public defender for you.
When Judge Wish informed him of this potential enhancement, Greenman wasn't happy about it, and he let the judge know.
That's horse. You do whatever the you want.
Excuse me?
My name is Mr. Greenman. I'm a witness of the United States federal government. I demand some respect, you. Let's get a jail round along y'all did and figure out what you're doing.
All right, he can be removed once y'all get him out.
Now.
Undeterred by the disruption, Judge Wish continued with the proceedings, addressing the case's specifics. She emphasized no contact with victims or witnesses. Subsequently, Greenman's bond was set at $1,000, and he was released on recognizance.
And I'm going to set his bond at $1,000.
However, shockingly, he failed to appear at the pretrial hearing, resulting in a warrant for his arrest being issued. However, it's not the first time a convict has lost control in court, just like what happened in the notorious case of Bryce Rhodes.
Where you live at?
He was indicted on multiple charges, including the murder of 3 individuals in 2016. Rhodes was accused of murdering 14-year-old Larry Ordway and his 16-year-old brother, Maurice Gordon. This was after the 2 brothers witnessed Rhodes fatally shoot Christopher Jones, 40, a few weeks earlier.
He put a rag in his mouth. And then he stabbed him. We moved Maurice to the side, and we brought his brother, and we put the tobacco in his head. He put the tobacco in his head and put the sock in his mouth. And like, started stabbing him too.
The police reported that Rhodes beat and stabbed the brothers and burned their bodies. Just when you thought Rhodes couldn't sink any lower, his behavior in the courtroom will leave you stunned. Since his arrest, Rhodes has displayed unpredictable and violent behavior, which is why he's in the Jefferson District Court in Louisville, Kentucky, in restraints and a spit mask. During the trial, Rhodes remained combative, interrupting and disrupting the court.
Rhodes, you can just bring him up right here.
Why y'all having me come out like this for?
I think you know why.
What?
You know exactly why. Now,
y'all.
listen, stop talking. You have been...
God.
Are you done?
No, I ain't done.
You've been charged with assault in the 4th degree.
Despite the disruptions, the proceedings continued.
Keep talking because I don't want to have to see you back here for this.
Watch again as Rhodes threatens the judge.
Can't find out where you live at? What you think at? I don't about none of that. I ain't do.
But the judge didn't let that slide.
That was a threat against the court. I think that I'm asking the county attorney's office to take that into account and consider what to do with that.
Consequently, Rhodes was charged with terroristic threatening in the 3rd degree and intimidating a participant in the legal process due to this incident. But the story didn't end there. Rhodes' lawyer argued that he was mentally incompetent to stand trial. However, on April 21st, 2023, a Jefferson Circuit Court judge ruled that Rhodes was mentally competent to stand trial.
Mr. Rhodes isn't just making the decision to not participate with his attorneys. I don't think that necessarily makes him incompetent.
The trial date has been set for December 11th, 2023. However, while Rhodes' behavior was shocking, it's nothing compared to the utter mayhem caused by Tobias Roman in court. 27 years old, Roman is facing multiple charges, including attempted robbery, threatening with intent to terrorize, and exhibiting a deadly weapon in Bakersfield, California. These charges stem from his alleged stalking of a female employee at a shopping mall. The true shock lies not in the crime itself, but in Roman's jaw-dropping behavior during the sentencing. During the trial, Roman was uncooperative right from the start.
Roman, stand up.
My foot hurts. I can't stand up right now. But I'm right here.
When asked for his name, Roman initially responds with the street name, Giggles.
Your true correct name?
Tobias, my first name. That's it. Giggles or Tobias. That's it. Don't call me that now.
But Roman wasn't done. He continued with his disruptive behavior.
This time I will appoint the public defender to represent Mr. Roman. The charges, Mr. Roman, are attempted robbery. Hey, Mr. Roman, you need to be quiet.
After repeated interruptions and being told to remain silent, Judge Charles Bemmer delivers a stern warning.
You get one more chance and then you're going to be removed from the courtroom.
Unfortunately, Roman doesn't heed the warning and is eventually removed from the courtroom. But just before leaving, he threatens the judge. In response, Judge Bemmer notes this threat for the record and requests law enforcement to take appropriate action.
I'm going to request law enforcement to take the appropriate action.
Eventually, Tobias Roman pled no contest to the charge of threatening a public official. He was sentenced to an 8-month prison sentence. However, just when you thought you'd seen it all, another convict surpasses Roman's wild courtroom display. Enter Jack Dean Whitaker, who was in court for manslaughter charges. In April 2010, Whitaker, who was under the influence of methamphetamines, drove recklessly and crashed into 21-year-old Kayla Wilson from Gresham, Oregon. Kayla Wilson was 5 months pregnant at the time. The collision left Kayla Wilson in a vegetative state, and tragically, she succumbed to complications from her injuries 8 years later. Her emotionally shattered and financially burdened family had to make the different decision of delivering her daughter Jakyla by emergency C-section after the crash. However, the real shocker came when Whitaker unleashed his madness in the courtroom. During the trial, different members of Kayla Wilson's family read their victim impact statement.
So I asked myself, any amount of time that Jack Whitaker could serve cannot make up for the loss of my daughter. Absolutely not.
However, the court proceedings take a disturbing turn when Whitaker aggressively denies his involvement in the crash and repeatedly interrupts the victim's family members as they address the court. He displays no remorse, and his reason for his lack of remorse shocked the courtroom.
Because the jury found me guilty does not mean that I'm guilty, and that's why I cannot show remorse, because I did not do it.
You'll never know her mom and dad again.
I didn't do it. I didn't do it.
Despite the overwhelming evidence against him and the gravity of his actions, Whitaker vehemently argues his innocence and challenges the court. He also interrupted the judge.
Mr. Whitaker, you had a chance already. This is my opportunity.
Yeah, well, I didn't do it.
The case was an emotional one, and even the judge was left at the brink of tears.
I'm deeply sorry that you've had to endure the life-changing injuries to Kayla,
My son.
to her daughter, and to the rest of the family.
In the December 6, 2019 sentencing, Jack Dean Whitaker received a 16-year sentence for first-degree manslaughter. But for Whitaker, that was too much because he is supposedly innocent.
11 years. Yeah. For being innocent. You're kidding me. 11 years, that's enough.
Whitaker's driving license will be suspended for 8 years after he's released from prison. However, while Whitaker's behavior raised eyebrows, it's nothing compared to the explosive actions of 43-year-old Sigmund Gomez during his trial. Gomez is in court for a bond hearing in connection to charges of sexually assaulting a minor. Police said Gomez sexually assaulted a teenage girl and his family multiple times in 2019. If you thought Gomez's crimes were reprehensible, brace yourself for his shocking conduct during the proceedings. During the bond hearing, he was instructed to stay away from the alleged victim and his children and to avoid any contact with his girlfriend, Sarah Ibarra. The judge also deemed him to be a danger and ordered him to remain in jail until his trial. Gomez wasn't happy to hear that, and this is how he reacted. Because of his disruptive courtroom behavior, additional charges of resisting and obstructing were added to his charges. Gomez spent 3 years in jail awaiting trial until he ultimately pleaded guilty in November 2022. Eventually, Gomez reached a plea agreement and was sentenced to 15 years in prison. Additionally, he will be required to register as a sex offender for life. However, when emotions run high in court, the actions of Sigmund Gomez and Timothy DiMatteo leave us questioning sanity itself. Timothy DiMatteo, a 34-year-old Hollywood musician, was accused of shoplifting at Walgreens.
Honor?
Yes, sir.
You know me, don't you?
No.
DiMatteo's troubles began when he was observed placing nutritional supplements down his pants and then entering a Walgreens bathroom. After being confronted by a Walgreens employee about the stolen supplements, he returned them, but not without causing a scene. He cursed the employee, kicked merchandise, and damaged a 12-pack of Coca-Cola before leaving the store. Police eventually caught up with him at a nearby Publix, leading to his arrest on charges of petite theft and property damage.
My First, Second, Third, Fourth, 13th, 14th Amendment rights have been violated.
While the crimes committed by DiMatteo are abhorrent, his courtroom conduct will leave you speechless. During his bond hearing before Broward Judge John Hurley, DiMatteo put on quite a show.
Bathroom to take a piss and wash my hands, and the manager's in there waiting for me, thinking I'm shoplifting. I wasn't shoplifting anything.
No?
No.
DiMatteo's argument was that he was innocent and was unfairly arrested. As it turns out, this wasn't DiMatteo's first encounter with the law. A prosecutor informed Judge Hurley that DiMatteo was on probation for grand theft, which only fueled further confrontation.
Additionally, on September 29th of this year, he was placed on 18 months probation for grand theft.
As the judge attempted to discuss the facts of the case, DiMatteo decided to express himself in a spectacular way. However, his concert only attracted corrections officers. Following DiMatteo's disruptive behavior, corrections officers had no choice but to forcibly remove him from the courtroom. The bond hearing continued without his presence.
Please sit down.
Your Honor.
Ma'am, I'm not having two attorneys. Please sit down.
Eventually, DiMatteo's bond was revoked, and he was remanded into custody. His property damage charge was dismissed, and he was ordered to pay for the petty theft. If you thought these reactions were shocking, you'd be amazed at this video of the most disturbing courtroom moments of all time.